before the world called him a legend. He was just a hungry boy with a patched-up ball and a promise. A promise whispered in a dimly lit kitchen to the woman who gave him everything. This isn't just a story about football. It's about sacrifice, silence, and one vow that never broke even when the world did. This is how Cristiano Ronaldo became the man behind the myth. Welcome to the Ronaldo Chronicles. The empty kitchen. Before the world knew his name, before the trophies and the headlines, Cristiano Ronaldo was just a boy sitting in a cold kitchen, staring at an empty plate. Madeira, the island of flowers, cliffs, and sunsets, wasn't always beautiful from the inside. Especially when there wasn't enough food to go around. He lived in a tiny house in Santo Antonio. Concrete walls. Rusted pipes. One shared bathroom. And in that kitchen, where hope sometimes ran thinner than soup, Cristiano would watch his mother scrape together whatever she could find. Some days, it was just bread. Other days, not even that. He'd pretend he wasn't hungry. Say he'd already eaten at school. Lie. But his mom knew. Her name was Dolores. Tough. Fierce. But tired. She worked as a cook and a cleaner. Left before sunrise. Came home after dark. Wore shoes so old, they had more holes than leather. Still, she never let them feel poor. She'd smile, ruffle Cristiano's hair, and say, "You'll be someone, Chris. I can feel it. And when you are, you take care of this family, okay?" He didn't answer right away. Because he was choking back tears. Cristiano didn't grow up with silver spoons. He grew up with second-hand shoes and hand-me-down dreams. And his only escape? A ball. A cheap one. Sometimes even made of rags. But it was his. There was a narrow street outside. Steep hill. Cracked pavement. Perfect for a kid with quick feet and something to prove. He played every day. Rain, wind, hunger, didn't matter. Barefoot. Bleeding toes. Bruised knees. And still, when someone tried to take the ball from him, he fought like his life depended on it. Because in a way, it did. The neighborhood kids would laugh sometimes. Call him skinny boy. Mock his clothes. Even trip him on purpose. But he never cried in front of them. He'd just go home. Kick the ball against the wall. Again. And again. And again. One night, after a rough day, he walked into that kitchen. His mom was sewing his torn shorts by candlelight. She looked up and asked, "Did you win today?" He shrugged. "They say I'm too small to be good." She didn't miss a beat. "Then you grow your heart bigger than theirs." That night, as he lay on the thin mattress, he whispered to himself, "One day, I'll be the best in the world." And in the dark, barely audible, "I promise, May." He was just 10. But something changed. Not in his body. In his mind. He started waking up earlier. Training harder. Staying later. Even his teachers noticed. Not because his grades were great, they weren't. But because he'd run faster than anyone. Jump higher. Try harder. Because he wasn't just chasing a goal. He was chasing that promise. The broken bed and the train ticket. Cristiano was only 12 when he left home. Not for a school trip. Not for vacation. But for a dream that none of his neighbors believed in. Except one person. His mother. The conversation happened over a broken bed frame and a kitchen table with one missing leg. Dolores sat him down one night and said, "There's a place in Lisbon. Sporting club. They want to see you. They think you have something." Cristiano blinked. Lisbon? That was a world away. Not just in distance, but in everything that scared him. He had never been on a plane. He barely spoke proper Portuguese, let alone city slang. He still shared a room with all his siblings. And now, he was supposed to just go. He didn't argue. He didn't cry. But that night, When everyone else was asleep, he sat on the edge of that broken bed and stared out the window. Lisbon meant football. Lisbon meant opportunity. But Lisbon also meant leaving his mother behind. And that felt like tearing a piece of himself out and handing it to the dark. They scraped together what they could. Neighbors pitched in. His mom sold her old gold earrings. Even his sister gave up her birthday gift that year. Not because they were sure he'd make it, but because he was sure. And that was enough. The goodbye at the station wasn't loud. There were no balloons. No cameras. No speeches. Just his mother, holding his face with both hands. Be strong. Not just on the field, Chris. In here. She touched his chest. Remember who you are. He nodded. Didn't speak. He couldn't. His throat was locked shut with emotion. And as the train pulled away, he pressed his forehead against the window and watched the woman who believed in him disappear into the distance. Lisbon was colder than Madeira. Not just the weather, the people. His accent made him a target. Kids laughed at the way he talked. They mocked his island slang. Some called him country boy. Others? Worse. He tried to call his mom, but the phones didn't always work. So he cried. At night. Under the covers. Then the next morning. He trained harder than anyone else. Sporting had dormitories, but no comfort. Thin blankets. Shared bathrooms. He missed home-cooked food. He missed his mom's voice. He missed the smell of the ocean. But every time he felt like quitting, he thought of that tiny kitchen, that broken bed, and the look in his mother's eyes. One day, Chris, you'll be someone. That sentence echoed louder than any coach's scream. He started staying after training, running laps while the others showered, practicing free kicks until the sun disappeared, doing push-ups until his arms gave out. And people began to notice. Not because he was strong, but because he refused to be weak. At just 14, Sporting's coaches said, he's raw, but he's got something. If he grows into that body. Cristiano didn't wait to grow. He pushed his body faster than nature intended. Drank protein shakes for money he didn't have. Did resistance drills with rocks when weights weren't available. Taped his own ankles when no one helped. Because he knew one thing. Nobody was going to hand him the future. He had to steal it. And every night before sleeping, in that lonely dorm room, he whispered the same words into the dark. I'm coming back for you, May. I'll make you proud. The first contract. He was 15 when it finally happened. One signature. One piece of paper. And everything changed. Cristiano Ronaldo, the skinny kid from Madeira, became a professional footballer. But nobody clapped. There were no headlines. No big ceremony. Just a cheap pen, a plain desk, and a quiet office. And a mother on the other end of the phone, trying not to cry. I told you, Chris, she said. Now don't stop. Ever. He didn't say much. Because in his head, the next battle had already begun. The contract brought more than a salary. It brought pressure. Now, every touch was judged. Every mistake got noticed. He had to prove he belonged every single day. And not just on the field. Off it, too. Some teammates didn't like him. Called him arrogant. Said he cared more about his looks than the team. He wore tight clothes. Used gel in his hair. Tried different moves in training. They laughed. Mocked him. And he heard all of it. But Cristiano didn't push back with words. He pushed with work. He trained longer. Lifted heavier. Ran harder. At night, he'd sneak into the gym alone. In the morning, he beat everyone to the pitch. One coach said, he's not just talented. He's obsessed. And that was true. Because he knew talent could get you into the room. But obsession is what keeps you there. His performances started to turn heads. Not just in sporting, but across Europe. Scouts from Liverpool, Barcelona, Juventus. But none of them made the move. Too young. Too skinny. Too much risk. Until one night. August 2003. Sporting vs Manchester United. Friendly match. Cristiano played like his life depended on it. He danced past defenders. Made Premier League veterans look like amateurs. The United players were stunned. After the match, several of them went straight to Sir Alex Ferguson and said, "You have to sign that kid." And just like that, the door opened. When the offer came, it felt unreal. Cristiano. Manchester United. The club of legends. Beckham. Giggs. Scholes. He called his mom. She didn't scream. She didn't ask questions. She just whispered, "Don't forget where you came from." But the excitement didn't last long. Because when he arrived in Manchester, the tone changed. He walked into a locker room full of champions. Older. Bigger. Stronger. Colder. Some didn't like the flash. The step-overs. The accent. Show off. Dancer. Fake. They kicked him harder in training than opponents did in games. He was 18. Alone. Barely spoke English. But he didn't fold. He remembered that kitchen. That promise. That train ride. So he trained. Again. And again. And again. Sir Alex saw it. "He has something," he said. "But he needs to grow." And Ronaldo? He didn't wait to grow. He forced it. Every rep. Every drill. Every late night. He wasn't just building muscle. He was building armor. Because the world wasn't going to go easy on him. And he had no intention of going easy on it. The wink that changed everything. 2006. World Cup. Quarterfinal. Portugal vs. England. A match that should have been remembered for football. Instead, it became about a single moment. A red card. And a wink. Cristiano was no longer the skinny boy from Madeira. He was a rising star. Fast, flashy, unpredictable. England knew it. They marked him hard. Kicked him more than the ball. But he stayed on his feet. Because something bigger was at stake. It wasn't just about winning. It was about showing the world he belonged. Then came the foul. Wayne Rooney, his Manchester United teammate, stepped on Ricardo Carvalho. Cristiano ran to the referee. He gestured. Spoke quickly. Demanded justice. Rooney was sent off. And then, Cristiano winked. Just a twitch of the eye. But it was enough to turn headlines into firestorms. Traitor. Backstabber. Portuguese rat. England's media tore him apart. Fans burned his jersey. United supporters booed their own player. The country he played club football in hated him. And Cristiano? He didn't say a word. He flew back to Portugal. Finished the tournament. Came back to Manchester. And faced the storm. At Old Trafford, the boos were loud. Not just from the away fans. From his own. Every touch. Every step. Mocked. He could have asked for a transfer. He could have run. But he didn't. Because quitting wasn't an option. Not for the kid who trained in the dark. Not for the boy who made a promise to his mother. So what did he do? He trained harder. More gym. More sprints. More drills. He stayed late. Showed up early. Did extra. And on the pitch? He started to destroy. Step-overs. Goals. Assists. Every boot turned into a cheer, then into a roar. Sir Alex Ferguson didn't just support him. He protected him. challenged him, transformed him. He said, "I made him." But he made himself too. Cristiano's stats exploded. Fans turned. Media reversed their narratives. In one season, he went from villain to unstoppable. But he never forgot. He never let himself forget the headlines. The hate. The moment when the world turned on him. Because that moment, it built the beast. He didn't need their applause. He needed the work. And he delivered. Years later, someone asked him, "Would you change what happened?" He smiled. "No. It taught me everything." That wink? It didn't break him. It burned the weakness away. The night she finally smiled. Lisbon. Estadio de Luz. A Champions League final. The lights, the cameras, the world watching. Cristiano Ronaldo, now a global icon, was lacing up his boots. But something felt different this time. Because she was there. His mother. Dolores. Front row. Finally. She had watched his career from kitchen TVs. Listened to his interviews on crackling radios. Cut out newspaper headlines, even when she couldn't read them fully. But live? In the stadium? Never. Until that night. And not just any night. The biggest night of his career. Cristiano looked up during warm-ups. Among the flashing lights, screaming fans, and bouncing banners. He saw her. Wrapped in a scarf. Eyes wide. Hands shaking. But smiling. Not the polite smile of a proud parent. No, this was different. This was the smile of a woman who remembered. The nights with no dinner. The shoes she patched for the third time. The neighbors who said he'll never make it. The goodbye at the train station when he was just a boy. And now? Her son was here. The game started fast. Tension. Pressure. Champions League final always is. Cristiano played sharp. Focused. Like every run was part of that promise. He didn't just play to win. He played to prove. And when the final whistle blew, the scoreline was clear. Victory. He had done it. Champions of Europe. Again. He didn't jump. Didn't scream. He just turned toward the stands. And pointed. At her. Later that night, as the team celebrated, he slipped away quietly. Found the private box where his mother sat. She stood up. Tears in her eyes. Couldn't speak. Cristiano hugged her tight. Longer than usual. And finally whispered, "I told you, May. I kept my promise." She pulled back. Looked at him. And said, "You're still my little Chris." In that moment, the trophies didn't matter. The headlines, the money, the awards, none of it. Because this was the real prize. Not the silver cup. But the silent kitchen that had become a stadium. The patched shoes that had become golden boots. The whispered promise that had become a global story. Cristiano Ronaldo, the legend, had always been the boy from Madeira. The difference? Now the world finally saw it too. He kept the promise. From the empty streets of Madeira to the brightest lights in football. Not just for himself, but for the woman who never stopped believing. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real victory. If this story moved you, let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and stay with us on this journey through the untold moments of greatness. Because the Ronaldo Chronicles has only just begun. Fade out with soft music and logo.